Hello everyone, welcome to the GitHub Masterclass. So in this lecture, we are going to look at what is GitHub. So before we look on to what is GitHub, we should know what was happening before GitHub was not there. So we could identify that what was the need for GitHub. So it will give you a brief idea that why do we need Git and GitHub. So basically in late 90s there was no GitHub, so basically you don't have any version control. What do I mean by version control? Suppose you created a software like ABC and you created some changes onto this, so we just name it the new changes to be named as version 1.0. Like similarly, when you play games, you might have noticed that there is some version written down there, like some version 1.0. And similarly, once there is new features, new updates, the version increases. If you have used any apps or any mobile application, so if you have any application like mobile application you have played with, you might see have that they have some version numbers there, and once there is new update, their version gets updated. Basically, it gives you an idea that what are the in which version what are the features are there, so it's better for handling. So here in this meme, you could relate that in 90s, you what they did was basically there was no Git and no GitHub. So basically they created a folder. Suppose they implemented a features, they named that as version 1.0, and once new changes are there, there is version 1.0.1, and similarly once all new features are there, their new features are new folders are added and so on. So now to understand this meme, it's basically saying that it's just a way to show irony that people use manual version control instead of Dropbox GitHub. So what is a Dropbox? Basically, you drop and it's a cloud storage system, so similar to or Google Drive, where you could put all folders files into it. And what is GitHub? Just to have an idea, GitHub is where you could share your code files. It is also online storage system, but for the code, where we share, and we could also share your code with other people and collaborate with on to other people through GitHub. We are going to look at what is GitHub in detail, but just for an overview for this meet, GitHub is an online storage platform where user could share their codes. So what was the issue with manual version control? So you created a project, you named it as version 1.0. So what it has to do is like developers had to manually save different version of their code. So you created a new version, and if you have to create a new version, what you need to do is you need to create a copy of the whole code. So suppose you created a Python code, and it what it does is add shows a simple print hello world. But what you did was you now want to create a new version in which you need to show hello world, and you wanted to add a name. So what you need to do is you need to create a copy of the code, you copy new code, and then you add some codes there. And basically it will create what is the one of the most disadvantageous thing is people can't collaborate with you because it's on your own drive. If you want to have some share your code with, you have to upload somewhere, or you have to give a script file, and then the user could copy paste into his files, and then it try the user other developer could try to run your code depending on, because since there is no dependency, there is no thing the developer might find very troublesome for himself. So and then next thing is developer had to manually version control it. So suppose you created a code, you named it project 1 v1, and you added 1.01 abc, and other developer might know that this is the latest version than the other one. So you have to come up with some naming convention so that it was obvious for other developers, so that they could know that okay, this is the latest version. As you could imagine that in 90s how difficult was code managing was. So what was the disadvantages? We already discussed that this approach was prone to human errors, such as you could accidentally overwrite files, or suppose you deleted some files and you can't recover it because you already have saved it. And because of no version control, you have lot of issue to deal with because your file code is already gone. So you could imagine that you have already spent whole day to try and find out where your code error was, but because of some other human developers have made some changes, your code is not working. So in this case, a centralized version control system came at that time, and it was what it is basically is we have a single server in which it's a remote to use. What do you mean by remote? Because a remote is a place where the data server is. It's not onto your machine, but somewhere on the globe there will be a server where your code is there, and once your code is there, their repository is there. So what that centralized version control is basically all the developers could could commit changes and update onto the code. So here you could see that we have single repository somewhere around the globe. Basically, the famous are US, and then in the India it's Mumbai, and Singapore is also famous for Asia servers, and in Europe ABC servers are there. Basically, there are those global data centers. Farmhouse there is a rack of uh, all the data storage where your code would be there. And basically, since your code is at that place, what would happen is basically you are suppose a developer of three teams. Each one would create a working copy, and then it would create a commit and directly upgrade to the main repository. And here, could you try to imagine the issue? Could you try to imagine any issue? What would happen? Yeah. So the main issue with this one is because since the server is single server and you do any update or commit, the whole repository would change. So basically, suppose you committed, updated it, and then the repository would automatically update this. And suppose developer 2 is working on some line of code and you are like working on the same file, you could imagine that suppose developer 2 removed that code and updated it, and you were working on that line of code to add some more functionality, and you could then imagine that in another second that line code was deleted, gone, because someone has updated their code, and once you update your code, your whole code was gone. So basically, SVN was the software to use. Basically, Subversion was used. Now let us look at what are the disadvantages in centralized with. Now, what is the problem with centralized version control? So the system had a single repository, as we know that this could be in any remote place, that could be in Mumbai, that could be in California, Ohio, and these are the data centers. So these system had a single repository that all developers had to interact with. So once the server is down, so the whole workload is gone. So no one could do anything. So if there is a single point of failure, so suppose there is a remote repository at Mumbai, and suppose that remote at that server something happens due to some failure, that whole data is lost. Suppose that whole data center have gone to the failure and the whole data is erased. So what do we do now? Because whole data have been gone, and once the data is gone, your code is gone. So it had a very uh, lot of problem to it. And once other problem is that you once user update and commit it, the other user code gets updated and it could go to the latest repository. So it's very problematic for the developers. So here's the problem: when server's down, your code is gone. So what do you do? So and this was one of the main challenges. Next was Next issue was difficulty in collaboration. So when without distributed version control like Git, we know merging code changes from developer was very much a problem because it directly updated the main code, and it was very much error prone, and what was making it very difficult for developer to update their code. So developer often had to email code files back and forth, leading to in conflict changes, duplicated effort, and difficulty in synchronizing work. And you could imagine how much stress it was for the developers. So because someone just changed the code, whole code was corrupt. Now how do we fix it? Next was limited backup and recovery. So without robust version control, backing up and recovering code was less reliable. Losing data was more common, especially if central server is failed, and recovering lost work could be difficult. So whole thing, you have limited backup, you can't recover your code, you could easily lose your code, and if central data is server is failed, you can't get your work back. Next was the issue. Main challenges was no centralized collaboration platform. So before GitHub, there wasn't any widely adopted platform that standardized how developers could collaborate it on a code. Open source contribution was very less organized, and finding and sharing your projects was very much challenging. So this is where this time in 2009 GitHub came. GitHub in simple term is a space or cloud where you could save your share and save your code to the others, save and share your code to the others. Every file or files or whatever projects that you save into project is called repository or repo. So when you create your file or folder, it is known as repository. So what is GitHub? So imagine that you work at Netflix as a product manager, and one day you realize that you want to make changes to your home pages. So you talk to developer team and explain about all your changes, what you want to do. So let's suppose all the code of the Netflix is saved. So uh, we could revive, come back. What do I mean by that? So now you are working as a product manager and you want to change the homepage. Suppose you want to add some nice cards onto your homepage, or you want to add some animation, and you come back to your Netflix code which is on GitHub. The so what would the lead developer would do is divide the task into chunks and send down this instruction to each developer that we want to work on the which file. So it is would be very difficult if everyone was working on the same file, right? Because suppose this is the file and everyone was working, no one knows what to do it. So we basically divide each task into smaller chunks that is independent of collaboration, and we send it out to the each developer. So what do you will do is you will clone your Netflix account, Netflix, and you will create a branch. And you know that early branch often is the mantra that you need to follow. And at this point, you could change future that you will need to add. You could add, then easily commit back those changes. And a commit is basically a Git repository that is a snapshot of all the track files. It's like a giant copy paste, but even better because your space is not getting increased. Uh, Commits are very lightweight, so you just need to create a commit, and it basically create a hash of that code, and it saves the link to it. So basically, it's a SHA-256 hash of the changes, and you could come back to any other commit, basically changes that you need to come back. And now let us look onto the demos. So here is a demo to the GitHub. How do you use GitHub? So basically, you need to come to the github.com, and it's asking me for 2FA, basically a two-way verification. So before that, we will see how do you create a account on GitHub. So for first, I have logged out from my account, and what I need to do is basically go to the GitHub page, And here you could have a lot of idea what GitHub is. So basically, you could see that it provides GitHub Copilot, which is a AI-based tool for your coding. Then it provides GitHub Action CI/CD. Basically, once you deploy your code, it's automatically get builded and distributed to the server. Next, it provides a GitHub code space that you don't. What you could do is directly use Studio Code online. And next, they have also a GitHub mobile application that you could use for their code. And here you could see basically it's using CI/CD to build your file. Now it's also provide you GitHub Advanced Security Vision Vulnerability Tool. Basically, it's a tool that goes through your all the code and provides a critical information that how your code might be vulnerable to it. Next, it also provides code scanning. It helps you to provide uh, like suggestion that what your code could be. And these are the following features that next it provides a Jira board basically for your project in directly onto the GitHub. So you could create your tickets directly, complete onto it and maintain it. So you could see how streamlined it is. Now it also provide a GitHub discussion where you could ask open and conversation onto your project. Then people could ask question that how to install. If we do have following features, these would be the benefits. Next are the pull requests are in real time that you could provide, and then these are all basically most of the GitHub features. But basically, once you got an idea, you need to create an account. So here you need to provide an account ID. So let's say what I'm going to do is for this demo, I'm going to create a temporary mail just for this how to log in into the GitHub. So I've created a temporary mail because I already have a account. So I'm creating a temporary mail, and then it will ask me to create a password. So this is a temporary password. I'm not going to use it. Basically, I'm going to delete after this video. So let's use username. So it is 123 available. So you need to create your mail, your password, and username. And once that done, you could. I don't like to get any occasional product updates and announcement. That's why I don't like uh, the uh, those marketing emails. So we need to set this up like this. And, once we verify the bot thing, they will send out a OTP, basically launch code that we need to. So I will add this. And once that done, your account is created. So here I will copy my email ID, and I have already saved that password. So let me sign in with this. So once that's done, you have been logged in. So I will use my real account for this. Once you logged in, your profile would look like this. So what you first need to do is let us see what is repository is. So what I have done is once you got to the dashboard, this is you might get icon like new with book icon, and here you could create a new repository, and let's say let us name as Abhijit GitHub demo, and here you could add a description. This is demo regarding GitHub account, and then you could choose it to be public or private. You could also add readme file, and then this will create a GitHub repository, and here is your account created. Now, once your account is created, you could see in the dashboard following things: the number of contribution you made. So here you get the idea that how many commits you have made. Basically, recruiter always look at this, and then the achievements you have done, like the amount of pull requests you have done, and then co-authored your commit with other people. Then you have pull request merge. When you do this, you get those badges, and whatever the repository you created, it's inside this GitHub demo, so you could use it directly from here. Now you got an idea how to use this GitHub repository.